So, after our victory last time around against the Dark Young of Shub-Niggurath, I decided that I was still a little bit under-leveled, so off camera I did do a little bit more grinding and managed to get up another 2 levels. But you might notice that Koudelka has quite a breadth of more vitality than she did last time around. And that is entirely due to one very lucky drop I got, this air chainmail. Yeah, this chainmail gives us a whopping 15 additional vitality and puts us well above even our very tanky meat shield Edward. And if you were looking to get it yourself, it's pretty much a very low to medium drop off of the reanimated suits of armor. But the good thing was that you can fight them pretty easily in the room right before the save point here. And while I was also leveling up, I decided that I've kind of been ignoring James as our support class character, so I did work up his buffing magic just a little bit. So now in the primary strength, vitality, and agility fields, he does have level 2. And also I worked up Koudelka's healing to level 2, just so we can have a backup healer. Also, the one final thing I did was to allow a little bit of time to pass, about 2 to 3 hours, just so we can get the last couple of relatively close secret items. Not really anything amazing. The cat food dude here is just dried food. And the Tamika soup is just an elixir. The really important thing here is the Charlotte's Book, but I'll cover that more later. For right now, I think we should go ahead and continue our exploration of the storage area here and see what lies ahead. Yeah, I think it was this other adjacent door that we needed to explore.
You always blame everything on the savagery of pagans. Are all men of the cloth like that?
It's senseless to tell you this, but the truth is...
What the?
Man, we haven't seen it in a while, but we are suddenly accosted by that reoccurring non-supernatural enemy. We narrowly managed to avoid getting crushed by the chandelier, and as you saw in the cutscene there, looked like an arm had been dislodged from the chandelier itself. Now, initially, this looked almost like a plaster piece of artwork, maybe something dislodged from a statue. But if we do take a closer look at it in our inventory, we will see that in actuality, it is a mummified arm, possibly a religious figure. I'm not very well versed in the Bible, maybe someone else knows. Though really our main concern for right now is, well, we might finally be able to catch up with whoever's been shooting at us and trying to kill us all this time. I mean, we did kind of see the person as we fell down from the upper dungeon into the lower dungeon, and I assume this person was the one that was firing at us from long range before. Sadly, though, before we get a chance to fully question them, they do ambush us, leading into what I would define as a very unexpectedly hard mini-boss encounter. Yeah, on the surface, this guy seems pretty unassuming. I mean, he's just a human being with a gun. How hard could that be, right? But it seems he does have combo capabilities with his pistol. And, well, we've already kind of seen with the upside-down zombie, enemies with a ranged weapon can be pretty dangerous because they can just pretty much entirely ignore, the meat shield you might have set up. That's also why I decided it probably would be best to equip Koudelka with the armor and, try to buff up vitality, as he is only going to be doing physical damage. In addition to that, one of the other oddities of this fight is that before we can even start fighting the mid-boss, or the mini-boss here, we do have to take care of his cover. So that's why I'm going to have Koudelka focus fire on one piece of debris, and Edward is going to focus fire on the other. And the one other very, very weird thing about this fight is exactly how you can end up, or the limited ways that you can end up causing damage to the thief himself. Because as you saw, I did set up a nice level 2 flare, which should technically attack the nearby debris and also the thief, causing a reasonable amount of damage. Thing is, though, that the magic ends up completely missing the thief. And that can be a pretty rude awakening, as it's never clearly explained why, but this thief, he is completely immune to every type of magic you can do. I guess there might be a lore reason in the fact that he has somehow evaded all the supernatural entities and of the monastery here, and he's been able to avoid all that damage and just raised his agility up to a tremendous level, or they maybe just wanted to do a little bit of a trollish move to make sure you have been balancing all of your different stats so you're not just focusing on magic. In fact, when I say that he is immune to all magic, yeah, that covers even trying to lower his stats, which I tried to do there because, as I think someone mentioned in the thread, I haven't really shown off the fact that if you do manage to use one of your fortify stat spells against the enemy, instead of fortifying them, they will instead lower that specific stat, which can be useful in very, very particular instances. But yeah, outside of that, there really isn't too much to this fight. I think the one reason that I had a very large amount of trouble with this fight when I was first trying to play through the game was that I had pretty much been ignoring Koudelka and James's vitality stat. And if you don't work those up properly, yeah, he can do almost 600 damage in a turn, and, well, when you haven't been bumping up vitality at all, you're probably going to only have about 600 to 700 vitality or health in the first place. So, yeah, there were times when Koudelka and James were pretty much getting one-shotted. Outside of that, though, it's merely trying to do as much physical damage as you can, which, considering that that's pretty much only Edward's field of expertise, things can kind of drag on. I mean, this guy doesn't have a mountain of health. Though it did strike me at this point, it seems like a good as time as any to pull out the bow gun, see what that can do. And almost 400 damage is fairly respectable, I'd say. Though, as you might recall, the one major drawback is you are going to have to waste a turn just reloading it since it only has a single shot. Yeah, considering that we have not upped Koudelka's strength whatsoever, 400 damage is pretty good, considering that James with his pistol and the minor bit that we have been working up his strength can maybe break 100 damage. Yeah, the crossbow, or the bow gun, is pretty amazing. Just, well, we do have very little ammo for it, so we can't really use it as much as we'd probably like to. Successfully taken down the thief, and he seemingly managed to survive, so hopefully that means that we can get a little bit of information out of him after this fight. And we are still going to just continue leveling up our characters as we have done previously. Though since I have been kind of ignoring the intelligence quote or intelligence stat for Koudelka, decided to bump that up just a little bit. Nothing really amazing with Edward, just normal, physical stats. And still just a random smattering for James. Kind of wanted to get him a little bit over the 1,000 health mark. And our additional rewards for doing that fight, just a piece of glass, some pistol rounds, but most importantly of all, we get a brand new key. First things first, though, time to see what we can get out of this thief.
Thief!
He's been sneaking around in the shadows and sniffing for treasure.
Just like us.
Well, sir, explain yourself. It's as plain as day this ruffian's a bloodthirsty killer who's been chasing us. Where you from, Hamburg? Not that it really matters. You're obviously a dirty immigrant thief. Probably infected with cholera or something, most of you are.
None of your business where I was born, you bastard!
Look, I don't really care where you were born. And I agree. He is a bastard. But tell me, did you kill all these people?
Look, I'm an immigrant. I'm a thief, and maybe I did drop a chandelier on you. But that's just because I wanted the whole pie for myself.
So you did kill all these people?
No, I swear to God. Not your God, bigot.
What do you mean?
It was the couple. The couple who look after this place.
What?
I'm telling you the truth. I've seen them. I've been down here a long time. Usually they use an axe when they catch thieves. The thieves come down here unarmed. They're stupid. They get caught from behind. I'd watch my back if I were you.
Unbelievable.
No, I'm telling you. The lucky ones die on the first strike. I've heard the others screaming through the night, clutching their bellies. I find them in the morning dead. No, I'm telling you, their fingers to their hearts, right through to their organs with a pain. Look, take it or leave it, but I'm telling you the truth. Those two, they're Satan incarnate. I may look shady, but killing's not my style. Look, the more wholesome they look on the outside, the colder and uglier the heart is. Just look at him!
Yeah. Good assessment for a thief.
You're crazy if you believe this scoundrel. This killer's obviously executed hundreds of people. He needs to be turned into the police and judged in a proper forum.
We're crazy. Why? Just because he's an immigrant? Or is it because he's one of the unsaved? That's bull and you know it, you pig-headed old bigot.
What I'm trying to say
believe
is...
this guy. Thieves can be exceedingly honest, you know? Still, he did try to kill us. For that.
What did you do that for?
If our lives cease being threatened, then it's a victory for God and all His glory, right? But if we go on letting them attack us, then the filthy, godless pagans win. Which would you like to bet on?
And Edward takes quite an extreme stance, I would say, to try to make his point proven. I mean, I can kind of understand that we wouldn't want to keep this thief alive since he quite blatantly did try to kill us, not out of fear, but just out of greed. It's just, yeah, in the end, it seemed that he was, well, Edward was just trying to prove a point to James that, you know, it's kill or be killed out in the real world. It's not just, you know, naive and elevated piety that keeps you alive. Yeah, on the body there, we did find a brand new gun. Though, first things first, since we did get, you know, a very large amount of ammo, we might as well go ahead and refill our weapons. Though, at this point, I don't know. I don't really know if we want to keep James with the pistol. It's not really cutting the mustard anymore, and we don't want to give him the bow gun, obviously. I think at this point, even though we did get a brand new pistol, it still might be worthwhile to switch over to the rifle. You can kind of see that the icon used for the weapon indicates that the rifle and pistol are going to be two different weapon experiences. So, we've already reached level 3 with the pistol, and I think we do want to work up with our, I guess, heavy weapon skill. So that's why we're going to switch to the rifle, and, but we do have a red key. We could explore back to the previous doors. It's just that, well, after this fight, I do want to make sure and explore the other nearby door here on the upper floor. And especially after that previous fight, it is almost cathartic to be able to use our very high-powered magic to make short work of our enemies. Though I do highly recommend never rest on your laurels and just focus in on one particular type of magic. You don't want to kind of spread yourself around. But behind this upper door here, we are presented with something of a puzzle, and we did see some of these icons in the previous video. It's just before we can even reach those icons, we do have to cover a few other ones, and that means we are missing a few pieces of the puzzle. Also, we get some shotgun shells, which means in the future we will be getting a shotgun. It's just, well, first things first, we are going to want to use this red key. And we have seen both of the doors that the red key is used on. One of them kind of close by. The other one, though, is a little bit more problematic, because that would require us going back up through the dungeon, and that's not really feasible. Thing is, though, the keen-eyed viewer, before we rushed up the stairs, might notice this door here on this little upper ledge. And if we did take a quick look at our map, we will see that this door here leads us back to a very, very useful location. Yep, it leads us all the way back to almost where we started in the monastery. And that means that we have a pretty clear shot all the way back to the caretaker's room, where, I don't know, maybe we could confront them and give them a piece of our mind. Also, as you might guess, the enemies here, well, they are pretty much the same low-leveled enemies we fought earlier. The enemies don't really scale with our level, they just kind of upgrade with the environment or the zone that you're going into, so yeah, anything you fight here, pretty much a cakewalk. Thing is, though, if we were looking for some conflict resolution with the elderly couple, we are pretty much out of luck. They seem to have gone to some unknown location. They did manage to leave behind their very, very ornate dragon statue here, which will go amazingly with that lion statue we got last time around. And less obvious is an item that you can find right over here in this drawer. And it is an accessory. Now, you might have noticed we did get another badge, I think from some off-screen grinding. And as with most accessories, it is a pretty nice boost to, well, pretty much all of the magic stats. And it is finally a very nice replacement for that secret ring that we got right at the start of the game. And even though it's not really necessary, we might as well give Edward here a little bit of extra magic defense. But outside of all that, right off camera, believe it or not, there is some additions to the room that you might have missed before during that little dinner scene. And in addition to the rifle rounds here, it does look like there is an additional room. Which appears to be something of a storage room with a very strange artistic motif to it. Yeah, I mean, I know that Ogden mentioned he had been a sailor, just a lot of pictures of sinking ships.
Hey, what's this? The Princess Alice? She was a pleasure boat that went down in a terrible accident in the Thames. This one, too. And this one. What's going on? They're all the Princess Alice. What is going on?
Another ghastly psychic vision, and just another question to add onto the overall pile that we already have been developing. Suppose that Ogden could have been on the Princess Alice, but I don't know. How did he manage to survive whatever happened to that ship? Before we can really ponder on that too long, we finally have encountered a brand new enemy here. Though it is a bit of an oddity. Haven't really shown it off, but there are a few instances in the game where you will fight poltergeists possessing different pieces of furniture. And for their inherent goofiness, I would say, they are unexpectedly beefy. I guess sturdy in the case of furniture. Yeah, they have a lot in the way of health. And they can do quite a bit of damage given the chance. And, well, I think they can also not only cause silence on a character, they can also inflict paralysis, which could make them pretty dangerous if you manage to run into a whole horde of furniture. The Jester is still pretty much a joke and very susceptible to magic. And we also see the rifle already seems to be doing quite a bit more damage than even the pistol. The combination of the increased ammo or the clip capacity and just the overall increased damage it can do can make the rifle seem an overall better choice. Obviously, just the reason I held off on using it was the lack of ammo. So with another nice, easy level up, we can now continue to explore this little storage area here. We find a doll with a somewhat familiar name. If you did make sure to watch the bonus video, you'll know that Valna is one of the names of the little mummified corpses guarding the green key, which means we are halfway to solving that conundrum. And it's a bit hard to spot. There is a little tribal mask hidden away here. And this item is something of a mystery to me. I've found very little info as to what this actually does. The description, not super helpful. It says that it will ward away gremlins and weak spirits. From what I've been able to gather, what this mask actually does is cause a specific enemy to drop an item sometimes, though, yeah, the information on it is pretty scant. I mean, I'm going to hold on to it either way, there's no reason not to. Just, I don't know, if anybody has a much clearer idea as to what this does, I'm completely all ears. With all that out of the way, though, we are now done with the caretaker's room, and it's time to head over to the other red locked door, though it is a little bit of a trip. Also, on the way there, it did strike me. There was this fresco that we passed by on the way up to the save point previously that mentioned that, well, we might be able to dislodge something if we had some running water. And by doing so, we have managed to get ourselves another animal-based statue out of the plaster. Not really sure what to do with these yet, but I think we will be finding out later on in the video. For now, though, it's time to see what is behind this door in the storage room. And also, get rid of this useless red key. So behind this locked door, we find a very, very messy looking bedroom. I assume this might be where the thief had been staying while he was trying to evade the elderly couple and their murderous ways. Also, I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but when we were in that storage room in the caretaker's little living area, there was a little axe on the ground there. I assume that could have been the murder weapon they had been using, which would have been a very, very nice, subtle environmental touch. But we're going to go ahead and focus on James's, magic stats. And proceed to loot the thief's room, considering that he is not going to really have much use for these items anymore. First thing is a very hard to see healing item here. The Roman nuts are, I think, a full health heal. I don't think they fill your MP. But still, very useful. In addition to that, there are some bullets here on the crate, which we don't really necessarily need. I don't think once you reach 99, picking up items will go past that limit, but the game never blocks you from picking up the past your maximum. In the cupboard here, we find another event-specific item. Let's go ahead and tuck that away for later. And the final thing that we are going to need to make sure and get in this room is just a little hint that's etched on the side of the crate here. Some more of those symbols in that upstairs room. And what we are going to want to specifically focus on are the symbols that have the red line passing through them. With that and the other 4 symbols, we now have enough of an idea that we can now pass through that little puzzle there. And, believe it or not, the game is actually nice enough to give you a little reminder in case you, may have stopped playing in between or, forgotten what the symbols could have been. The one real, trick here is to make sure to know that you want to backtrack just a little bit, because the next symbol is going to be this little, vase. Otherwise, though, it's a pretty simple puzzle to get past, and I don't think there's really any punishment for getting it wrong. And for solving that relatively easy puzzle, we do gain access to a brand new area of the monastery, a place that would normally be a vast wealth of knowledge for most, but it turns out that our party really isn't interested in the reading materials available. That isn't to say, though, that there aren't quite a bit of interesting odds and ends that will be of use to us in the library here. In this macabre little study, you might already notice that there is an item for us to pick up on the desk here. And it is yet another odd-colored piece of glass. I think we are collecting quite a bit of these. And in addition to that, just off camera, if you do explore, you'll find that they have hidden away a little chest here. Problem is that not only is it locked, but it is locked with an odd combination of Greek letters that Koudelka doesn't even want to mess around with. And instead of letting us experiment and try to, I guess, force this puzzle, we will have to wait a little bit until we are just straight up given the combination. Outside of that, though, I don't know, this library just kind of sticks out amongst all the monastery items that we've seen so far. Definitely got a very odd decor. As with most other areas of the monastery, it does have its own little menagerie of monsters. Initially, I thought that this was a brand new beast, but in actuality, it is just an upgrade of an enemy that we fought down in the lower depths of the dungeon, the Chikan, I think it was. While it is still a very odd customer, it still does not pose very much of a threat. I still feel a little bit remiss that I'm not allowing this little guy to show off his wondrous eye beam. He did manage to get off his little crane position before he could launch his spell, so he is getting a little bit closer to maybe doing damage to us at some point. You can already see some very odd wall decorations for the lower level there. In addition to that, we also find what appears to have formerly been a doorway that somebody has very hastily stoned up. Hopefully there is another passageway on the lower level here. Though what is most striking seems to be this very centralized clock here. Weird thing is that even though it does draw your eye and is probably the most prominent thing in the room, you can't really investigate it. Seems like there should be something more to it. It's just, yeah, I guess it's just a little bit of decoration. Also just want to keep on making sure that we top ourselves off on the ammo. It's always a good rule of thumb. But outside the rifle rounds there, the only other thing of interest is this high potion here hidden away in front of the pillar. Not too much else for us right now in this central library area, though we do have access to another door. Might as well go ahead and keep pressing on forward.
Oh.
December 5, 1895. Rain. I found out that the
320 chickens and 43 pigs were purchased from a supplier in town.
Rain.
How I have been waiting.
Now I only long to sleep in peace with my wife.
Elaine, I just want to make you happy. Will you marry me?
Yes. That woman was Lane. She summoned me here.
Yet another very bizarre psychic vision for Koudelka here. I mean, we saw a collection of occult iconography, one of which I kind of identified as the Kabbalan Tree of Life, that you might recall from the Haunting Ground game, or LP. More importantly, though, we finally have learned that the voice that was calling out to Koudelka to come here was Elaine. Now, who that is, we will hopefully find out later. For now, though, Amongst all the printing presses here, there seems to be a hidden away secret in the wall. It's just, well, we need to figure out some mechanism to make our way into the wall. And that mechanism is right nearby, though how it works is not especially clear. Now, you might have recalled previously when we got the stone tablet, I didn't say it was necessary to get, but in reality, it is. Because not only will it cause an opening in the wall behind us, which is where we are going to inevitably have to go in the future, it also allows us an update to our monastery map. And I am a little bit remiss because I might have misdirected people in thinking that the monastery map was not useful, just because of its very odd shape. But there is a very distinct reason why it was given that shape, and that's because we didn't have the full picture. Now that we do, we can see that the weird half-circle effect that it had was because it was excluding the, central courtyard area and the monastery proper. And we see that there is more to the basement, and a little bit more to the second floor, but more importantly, there is more to the third floor, and in fact there is a fourth, fifth, sixth, and I think even a seventh floor. So it seems that there is going to be quite a bit more to the monastery, in fact, even more reaching up further and further into the sky. For now, though, we'll worry about what lies in store for us in this secret passageway here. Kind of makes you wonder why they boarded this up, or that, boarded up, or that stoned up doorway in the second floor. Before we get to that, we have what in actuality is a very, very important enemy, though, its appearance doesn't make it seem so. Yeah, I'm not talking about the little Chikan here. No, I'm talking about this almost bag-headed entity that I think its proper enemy name is Mars, though I don't know if that actually denotes anything. And while it is not very imposing in a physical stature, it doesn't have much in the way of health, and it honestly doesn't do a lot with its magic damage, what it does have to offer the player is a very, very unique item that has a very, very low drop rate. And that item is something we have actually managed to get via the secret items that the game calls Charlotte's Book. But in reality, I think the game normally calls them scrolls. Now, what a scroll is a one-time use item that will allow any of the three characters to pretty much do a max level spell of a certain element, and it will do pretty much the maximum damage that the spell can do for the enemy that you're attacking. And it doesn't even take into account the possible, magic stats that the character using it has. The reason that's especially useful is because there are going to be certain fights in the future when, realistically, you do want all three party members doing the maximum amount of spell damage they can. And unless you're purposely leveling a character, or all three of your characters to be magic users, well, you're going to have to pretty much rely on scrolls to do that. The problem is that, as far as I can tell, the drop rate for the scrolls from this one enemy, and I think this is the only enemy that will drop them, is incredibly low. And in fact, some other sources that I've read state that you also have to have that mask that we got in the caretaker's room to even get them to drop at all. Though obviously this is mostly collected information from a number of game facts and just different sources, so kind of take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, as you saw, Mars not really that much of a difficulty. And for our troubles, we didn't manage to get a scroll, but we did manage to get another. I think the Rosario is an accessory. And before we take a look at that, we can get some more bowgun arrows, which are very nice. And what initially appears to be something of a saw blade on the box here, but turns out to be a very large metal disc. Now, if we take a quick look at just what that disc is, might shine some more light on it. It seems to be a record for a gramophone, so it could be some music, or it could be the recording of, I don't know, maybe the person that Elaine was talking to, or was talking to Elaine. It was kind of hard to hear in that cutscene. It was a bit of a mismatch in all sorts of occult ramblings. It was really, really hard to tell. But the Rosario is not a bad accessory. It's just right now the J-ring is still pretty good, but I think it is marginally better than the normal ring, so go ahead and pop that onto Padre here. And we do have another door here that we could go through. It's just that, as we have seen a couple times before, whenever it says that it is locked by a mysterious force, that usually means that there is a boss nearby that we need to take care of first. Might as well go ahead and explore our one final door here. Because we are greeted with a very small room with a very important door, because this door allows us to use all those animal statues that hopefully we've been collecting over the course of our adventures through the storeroom. Also, it hasn't really become an issue just yet, though at this point in the game it kind of can be. But our inventory is actually limited. I think at most we can only carry a total of 50 items. That's including weapons, accessories, armor, and our general tools, all total. And if we take a quick look at our tools, we'll see that we have quite a glut of just all types of event items. We have icon pieces, multiple shades of colored glass, random mummified arm. I mean, we're just totally flooding our inventory with inventory items that we need to progress. So that is something to keep in mind if you are trying to accrue a bunch of weapons. You might have to get rid of some of them. But yeah, for unlocking that very complicated door, we're given access to a very lauded hidden away library here. In addition to that, we have another new boss. Say hello to the Chimera. Not what we would consider from a mythological standpoint as a chimera. This horrifying scientific monstrosity was something created by man. Yeah, the heads are apparently different men that are now fighting over control of the body itself. As to why they have breasts, it's a bit hard to say. But overall, this boss, while visually imposing, is not that difficult, though I want to make my fight here a little bit simpler. Because while I did attempt to do this with the Thief and totally failed, the Chimera here does not have the same dodging ability for spells that the Thief had. So I am going to make sure and decrease its vitality, which will make this a little bit simpler. Also, the Chimera is very weak to water, which will not help its fight here, since we still do have that water knuckle. And, well, we haven't reached level 2 with the geyser, but our magic should be high enough that we'll do plenty of damage. So, as we start to set up our attacks here, I guess I should also point out the fact that for those not familiar with the mythology of the Chimera, it was a multi-headed beast that encompassed, I think, a lion, a dragon, and I think a ram, or a goat in this case, which, if you recall, were also the 3 statues that we were collecting over the course of our travels to the storeroom and the dungeon. So it could be that whomever's library this is, they were also the ones that made this horrible creation. also see here that not only does it do a fireball attack, but it also does a fireball attack that silences. And though I haven't really had the chance to show it off yet, if you do manage to get silence, I guess, in mid-cast or while you're revving up to cast, not only will you just not be able to cast, but you will also not be able to use another action that turn. So silence can be a pretty damaging thing to get hit with. Along with the fireballs, it also does have a sound wave attack. I think it manages to do 3 different elements for each head. Each head does have a unique attack. We've seen its fireball. We've seen, I think, what was maybe supposed to be a wind-based attack there with that sound wave. And I think the final head will do a single target water-based attack, though it's a bit hard to tell. Overall, though, stat-wise, the Chimera has, I think, a little bit less health than the Dark Young of Shub-Niggurath. And it doesn't really do any physical damage, it just does all, spell-based damage. So if you want to use James here to bump up your piety, you certainly can, though it's really not necessary. And I think the only real high stat that it has is agility. So if you have not been working up your team's agility, it can sometimes sneak in an extra turn here and there, though. Yeah, it's not really that. It's not a real difficult boss, all in all. And in fact, the Water Knuckle here, I think, has probably done about half of its health and damage so far. And what's not going to help its case anymore is the fact that now that Koudelka is no longer silenced and has also been buffed int-wise by James, her geyser is going to be doing a tremendous amount of damage. In fact, even though it's completely overkill, I'm going to buff her int one more time. And in fact, I want the coup de grace to be coming from Koudelka, so I'm going to waste a few turns just to make sure she can attack. Also, it allows the Chimera the ability to show off, I think, its water-based attack. And now that we have managed to not be silenced yet again, I think it is finally time to unleash our rage. Oh yeah, that is a nice chunk of damage. In fact, I think with the Chimera's lowered vitality from James's attack, I think that spell would have actually one-shotted the boss. And for that easy success, we actually almost hit level 21 for Koudelka and Edward. And being a little frustrated with how slowly she ended up attacking, I decided to bump up Koudelka's agility, and Edward is just going to keep getting his normal physical stat increases. And James, I wasn't exactly sure about. He needed a little bit more health, and I decided to give him some more strength just for shooting. And our reward isn't amazing, just another piece of the icon's adornment. For now, though, since we have access to another save point and we've done plenty of adventuring and exploration, we've got plenty of psychic visions to dwell upon, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a video. Hopefully you will join me next time as we continue our search for the truth and whatever secrets lie for us in wait in the Nemeton Monastery. See you then.